Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Hey Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone online. Kalaji is here. Nukunja Nagari is here. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. We're broadcasting live today from an undisclosed location. Hare Krishna. But we're here with Trisha Gorni Tai, Sri Giri Govardhan, Srila Prabhupada and Parampara, Sringadev, in good company. Hare Krishna. And today we are continuing on Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 13. 1:18:13. Hare Krishna. So if anybody wants, please, I'm going to do the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva naruttamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudírayat shrinvatam swakata krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto yabhadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam nashtaprayashvabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Hare Krishna. Please hold one moment. Okay. Okay. Diving in. Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 13. Tulyama livenapi na swargam na punarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya matyanam kim utashasaha. The value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. Purport. When there are some similar points, when it is possible to compare one thing to another. When there are some similar points, it is possible to compare one thing to another. One cannot compare the association of a pure devotee to anything material. Men who are addicted to material happiness aspire to reach the heavenly planets like the moon, Venus, and Indraloka. And those who are advanced in material philosophical speculations aspire after liberation from all material bondage. When one becomes frustrated with all kinds of material advancement, one desires the opposite type of liberation, which is called apunarbhava, or no rebirth. But the pure devotees of the Lord do not aspire after the happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom, nor do they aspire after liberation from material bondage. In other words, for the pure devotees of the Lord, the material pleasures obtainable in the heavenly planets are like phantasmagoria. And because they are already liberated from all material conceptions of pleasure and distress, they are factually liberated even in the material world. This means that the pure devotees of the Lord are engaged in a transcendental existence, namely in the loving service of the Lord, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. As a government servant is always the same, either in the office or at home or at any place, so a devotee has nothing to do with anything material, for he is exclusively engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Since he has nothing to do with anything material, what pleasure can he derive from material benedictions like kingship or other overlordships, which are finished quickly with the end of the body? Devotional service is eternal and has no end, because it is spiritual. Therefore, since the assets of a pure devotee are completely different from material assets, there is no comparison between the two. Sutta Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his association with the rishis in Naimisharanya is unique. In the material world, association with gross materialists is veritably condemned. The materialist is called Yoshit Sangi, or one who is much attached to material entanglement, women, and other paraphernalia. Such attachment is conditioned because it drives away the benedictions of life and prosperity. And just the opposite is Bhagavat Sangi, or one who is always in the association with the Lord's name, form, qualities, and so on. Such association is always desirable. It is worshipable. It is praiseworthy, and one may accept it as the highest goal of life. Jay. That's how I feel about my association with you, Kalaji. Hare Krishna. Kunamatripye drasavit katayam mahatamaikanta parayanasya nantam gunanam agunasya jagmur yogeshwaraye bhavapadma mukyaha. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, Govinda, is the exclusive shelter for all great living beings. And his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar, rasa, ever be fully satiated by hearing topics about him? Report. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are two chiefs of the demigods. They are full of mystic powers. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison of which one drop was sufficient to kill an ordinary living being. Similarly, Brahma could create many powerful demigods, including Lord Shiva. So they are Ishvaras, or lords of the universe. But they are not the supreme powerful. The supreme powerful is Govinda, Lord Krishna. He is the transcendence, and his transcendental attributes cannot be measured even by such powerful Ishvaras as Shiva and Brahma. Therefore, Lord Krishna is the exclusive shelter of the greatest of all living beings. Brahma is counted amongst the living beings, but he is the greatest of all of us. And why is the greatest of all the living beings so much attached to the transcendental topics of Lord Krishna? Because he is the reservoir of all enjoyment. Everyone wants to relish some kind of taste in everything, but one who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can derive unlimited pleasure from such engagement. The Lord is unlimited, and his name, attributes, pastimes, entourage, variegatedness, and so on are unlimited. And those who relish them can do so unlimitedly and still not feel satiated. This fact is confirmed in the Padma Purana. Ramante yogino nante satyananda chiratmani iti rama padena sao param brahma bhadiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. There is no end to such transcendental discourses. In mundane affairs, there is the law of satiation, but in transcendence, there is no such satiation. Suta Goswami desired to continue the topics of Lord Krishna before the sages of Naimisharanya, and the sages also expressed their readiness to hear from him continuously. Since the Lord is transcendence and his attributes are transcendental, such discourses increase the receptive mood of the purified audience. Tano bhavanvai bhagavat pradhano mahattamai kanta parayanasya harer udaram chadatam vishudham shushrushatam no vittano tu vidvan. O Suta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Purport. The speaker on the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the audience for such topics should be anxious to hear about him. When such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much congenial to continue discourses on the transcendence. Professional speakers and a materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourses. Professional speakers make a show of Bhagavat Saptaha for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourses of Bhagavat Saptaha for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of the senses, or liberation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities. But the discourses between the saints of Naimisharanya and Sri Suta Goswami are on the transcendental level. There is no motive for material gain. In such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is relished both by the audience and by the speaker, and therefore they can continue the topics for many thousands of years. Now, Bhagavat Saptahas are held for 7 days only, and after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker become engaged in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavat Pradhan, and the audience is not Shushrushatam, as explained above. And just to go back over what that meant, Bhagavat Pradhano, chiefly, chiefly in relation with the personality of Godhead, Bhagavat Pradhan, as for the speaker, and the audience has to be Shu Shru Shatam, which means those who are receptive. Let's be receptive. Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshid Yena Pavargakyam Adhabra Buddhihi Jnanena Vaya Saki Sabditena Vejeka Genjaradvajapadamulam. O Sutta Goswami, please describe these topics of the Lord by which Maharaj Parikshit, whose intelligence was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of birds. Those topics were vibrated by the son of Vyas, Srila Shukadev. Purport. There is some controversy amongst the students on the path of liberation. Such transcendental students are known as impersonalists and devotees of the Lord. The devotee of the Lord worships the transcendental form of the Lord, whereas the impersonalist meditates upon the glaring effulgence or the bodily rays of the Lord, known as the Brahmajyoti. Here in this verse it is said that Maharaj Parikshit attained the lotus feet of the Lord by instructions and knowledge delivered by the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami was also an impersonalist in the beginning, as he himself has admitted in the Bhagavatam 2.19. But later on he was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and thus became a devotee. Such devotees with perfect knowledge are called Mahabhagavats, or first-class devotees. There are three classes of devotees, namely the Prakrita, Madhyama, and Mahabhagavat. The Prakrita, or third-class devotees, are temple worshippers without specific knowledge of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. The Madhyama, or the second-class devotee, knows well the Lord, the Lord's devotees, the neophytes, and the non-devotees also. But the Mahabhagavat, or the first-class devotee, sees everything in relation with the Lord and the Lord present in everyone's relation. The Mahabhagavat, therefore, does not make any distinction, particularly between a devotee and non-devotee. Maharaj Parikshit was such a Mahabhagavat devotee because he was initiated by a Mahabhagavat devotee, Shukadev Goswami. He was equally kind even to the personality of Kali, and what to speak of others. There are so many instances in the transcendental histories of the world of an impersonalist who has later become a devotee. But a devotee has never become an impersonalist. This very fact proves that on the transcendental steps, the step occupied by a devotee is higher than the step occupied by an impersonalist. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that persons stuck on the impersonal step undergo more sufferings than achievement of reality. Therefore, knowledge imparted by Shukadev Goswami unto Maharaj Parikshit helped him attain the service of the Lord. And this stage of perfection is called Apavarga, or the perfect stage of liberation. Simple knowledge of liberation is material knowledge. Actual freedom from material bondage is called liberation. But attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord is called the perfect stage of liberation. Such a stage is attained by knowledge and renunciation, as we have already explained, Bhagavatam 1.2.12. And perfect knowledge, as delivered by Srila Shukadev Goswami, results in the attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord. Sana param punyam asamvritartham akyanam atyadabhuta yoga nishtam akyahyananta charitopapanam parikshitam bhagavatabhiramam. Thus, please narrate to us the narrations of the Unlimited, for they are purifying and supreme. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to the pure devotees, being full of bhakti yoga. Purport. What was spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and what is very dear to the pure devotees, is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of the narrations of the activities of the Supreme Unlimited, and therefore it is the science of bhakti yoga, or the devotional service of the Lord. Thus it is Pada, or supreme, because although it is enriched with all knowledge and religion, it is specifically enriched with the devotional service of the Lord. Oh man, this is nectar. Text 18. Sutta uvacha aho vayam janma vrito jahasma pradhanu vrityapi viloma jataha Dauskuliyamadhim vidunoti sigram mahattamanam abhidhana yogaha. Sri Sutta Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can, without delay, cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births. Purport. Sutta Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmin family. He was born in a family of mixed caste, or an uncultured low family. But because of higher association like Sri Shukadeva Goswami and the great rishis of Naimisharanya, certainly the disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages, and by his transcendental association he elevated many low-born, or those disqualified by birth or action, to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas, or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a brahmana or shudra by birth, or a householder or mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant with the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. Sutta Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukadeva and Vyasadeva, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science, or the science of Krishna, has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. So, Sutta Goswami had both the advantages, and thus undoubtedly he was completely freed from all disqualifications of low birth and mental agonies. This verse definitely proves that Srila Shukadeva Goswami did not refuse to teach Sutta Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became prominent within only 100 years or so, when the number of Dvija Bandhus, or disqualified men in the families of higher caste, increased. Lord Sri Chaitanya revived the original Vedic system, and he elevated Thakur Haridas to the position of Namacharya, or the authority in preaching the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Although His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased to appear in a family of Mohammedans. Such is the power of pure devotees of the Lord. The Ganges water is accepted as pure, and one can become purified after taking a bath in the waters of the Ganges. But as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the lowborn. And what to speak of association? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world. And it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental diseases of the present generation are more acute than bodily diseases. It is quite fit and proper to take up the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world without delay. Mahattamanam Abhidhana also means dictionary of great devotees, or a book full of the words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lord are in the Vedas and allied literatures, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 19. One second. Okay. Kuta punargrinato namatasya mahatamaikanta parayanasya yonanta shaktir bhagavanananto mahangunatvaryam anantamahu. Excuse me. And what to speak of those who are under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the Unlimited, who has unlimited potency. The personality of Godhead, unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes, is called the Ananta, the Unlimited. Purport. The Dvija Bandhu, or the less intelligent, uncultured men born of higher castes, put forward many arguments against the lower caste men becoming brahmanas in this life. They argue that birth in a family of Shudras or less than Shudras is made possible by one's previous sinful acts, and that one therefore has to complete the terms of disadvantages due to lower birth. And to answer these false logicians, Srimad Bhagavatam asserts that one who chants the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee can at once get free from the disadvantages due to a lower caste birth. A pure devotee of the Lord does not commit any offense while chanting the holy name of the Lord. There are 10 different offenses in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. To chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee is offenseless chanting. Hare Krishna, I'll read that again. To chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee is offenseless chanting. Offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord is transcendental, and therefore such chanting can at once purify one from the effects of all kinds of previous sins. This offenseless chanting indicates that one has fully understood the transcendental nature of the holy name and has thus surrendered unto the Lord. Transcendentally, the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical, being absolute. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. The Lord is the all-powerful personality of Godhead, and he has innumerable names, which are all non-different from him and are equally powerful also. In the last word of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that one who surrenders fully unto him is protected from all sins by the grace of the Lord. Since his name and he himself are identical, the holy name of the Lord can protect the devotee from all effects of sins. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord can undoubtedly deliver one from the disadvantages of a lower caste birth. The Lord's unlimited power is extended on and on by the unlimited expansion of the devotees and incarnations. And thus every devotee of the Lord and incarnations also can be equally surcharged with the potency of the Lord. I'll read that part again. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord can undoubtedly deliver one from the disadvantages of a lower caste birth. The Lord's unlimited power is extended on and on by the unlimited expansion of the devotees and incarnations. And thus every devotee of the Lord and incarnations also can be equally surcharged with the potency of the Lord. Since the devotee is surcharged with the potency of the Lord even fractionally, the disqualification due to lower birth cannot stand in the way. Hare Krishna. Etavatalam nanusuchitena gunara samyanatishayanasya Advaitaran prartayato vibhutir yasyang grihenum jusate nabipsaho. It is now ascertained that he, the personality of Godhead, is unlimited, and there is none equal to him. Consequently, no one can speak of him adequately. Great demigods cannot obtain the favor of the goddess of fortune even by prayers, but this very goddess renders service unto the Lord, although he is unwilling to have such service. Purport. The personality of Godhead, or the Parameshvara Parabrahman, according to the Shrutis, has nothing to do. He has no equal, nor does anyone excel him. He has unlimited potencies, and his every action is carried out systematically in his natural and perfect ways. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in himself, and he has nothing to accept from anyone else, including the great demigods like Brahma. Others ask for the favor of the goddess of fortune, and despite such prayers, she declines to award such favors. But still, she renders service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he has nothing to accept from her. The Personality of Godhead in his Garbhodakashayi Vishnu feature begets Brahma, the first created person in the material world, from his navel lotus stem, and not in the womb of the goddess of fortune, who is eternally engaged in his service. These are some of the instances of his complete independence and perfection. That he has nothing to do does not mean that he is impersonal. He is transcendentally so full of inconceivable potencies that simply by his willing, everything is done without physical or personal endeavor. He is called, therefore, Yogeshvara, or the Lord of all mystic powers. Atapi yat paranakavashishtam jagadvidin chopahritarhanambaha Shishampunatyan yattamo mukundat konama loke bhagavat pradartaha. Who can be worthy of the name of the Supreme Lord but the Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna? Brahmaji collected the water emanating from the nails of his feet in order to award it to Lord Shiva as a worshipful welcome. This very water, the Ganges, is purifying the whole universe, including Lord Shiva. Purport. The conception of many gods in the Vedic literatures by the ignorant is completely wrong. The Lord is one without a second, but he expands himself in many ways, and this is confirmed in the Vedas. Such expansions of the Lord are limitless, but some of them are the living entities. The living entities are not as powerful as the Lord's plenary expansions, and therefore there are two different types of expansions. Lord Brahma is generally one of the living entities, and Lord Shiva is the via medium between the Lord and the living entities. In other words, even demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who are the chief amongst all demigods, are never equal to or greater than Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and all-powerful demigods like Brahma and Shiva are engaged in the worship of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Therefore, who can be more powerful than Mukunda, Lord Krishna, to be factually called the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Ji, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva are not independently powerful. They are powerful as expansions of the Supreme Lord, and all of them are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and so also are the living entities. There are 4 sects of worshipful devotees of the Lord, and the chief amongst them are the Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and Sri Sampradaya, descending directly from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, respectively. Besides the above-mentioned 3 Sampradayas, there is the Kumara Sampradaya, descending from Sanat Kumara. All of the 4 original Sampradayas are still scrupulously engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord up to date. And they all declare that Lord Krishna, Mukunda, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no other personality is equal to him or greater than him. Excuse me. Yatra nudakta sahasaiva dhira vyapohya deha dishu sangamudham prajanti tat paramahangsamantyam yasminna himso pashama swadharmaha. Self-controlled persons who are attached to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna can all of a sudden give up the world of material attachment, including the gross body and subtle mind, and go away to attain the highest perfection of the renounced order of life, by which non-violence and renunciation are consequential. Purport. Only the self-controlled can gradually be attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Self-controlled means not indulging in sense enjoyment more than is necessary. And those who are not self-controlled are given over to sense enjoyment. Dry philosophical speculation is a subtle sense enjoyment of the mind. Sense enjoyment leads one to the path of darkness. Those who are self-controlled can make progress on the path of liberation from the conditional life of material existence. The Vedas therefore enjoin that one should not go on the path of darkness, but should make a progressive march towards the path of light or liberation. Self-control is actually achieved not by artificially stopping the senses from material enjoyment, but by becoming factually attached to the Supreme Lord, by engaging one's unalloyed senses in the transcendental service of the Lord. The senses cannot be forcibly curbed, but they can be given proper engagement. Purified senses, therefore, are always engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This perfectional stage of sense enjoyment is called Bhakti Yoga. So those who are attached to the means of Bhakti Yoga are factually self-controlled and can all of a sudden give up their homely or bodily attachment for the service of the Lord. This is called the Paramahansa stage. Hansas, or swans, accept only milk out of a mixture of milk and water. Similarly, those who accept the service of the Lord instead of Maya's service are called the Paramahansas. They are naturally qualified with all the good attributes, such as pridelessness, freedom from vanity, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, respectability, worship, devotion, and sincerity. All these godly qualities exist in the devotees of the Lord spontaneously. Such Paramahansas who are completely given up to the service of the Lord are very rare. They are very rare even amongst the liberated souls. Real nonviolence means freedom from envy. In this world, everyone is envious of his fellow being, but a perfect Paramahansa, being completely given up to the service of the Lord, is perfectly non-envious. He loves every living being in relation with the Supreme Lord. Real renunciation means perfect dependence on God. Every living being is dependent on someone else because he is so made. Actually, everyone is dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, but when one forgets his relation with the Lord, he becomes dependent on the conditions of material nature. Renunciation means renouncing one's dependence on the conditions of material nature and thus becoming completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Real independence means complete faith in the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of matter. I like that. Let me read that again. Real independence means complete faith in the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of matter. This Paramahansa stage is the highest perfectional stage in Bhakti Yoga, the process of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. Some really nice dynamics being explained of what is renunciation in that purport. Every living being is dependent on someone else because he is so made. So a lot of people in the material world think they are very independent. But if you work for a company, you're dependent on the company. If you own the company, well, then you're really dependent on all your workers because if they don't do their job, then your company can't operate. And even if you somehow come up with an arrangement where you don't have to depend on workers, maybe everything's electronic, well, then we're dependent on our government. I think I was hearing, it was a long time ago now, but I was hearing about some of the dynamics in some particular communist countries where basically if one's business enterprise is growing too much or they put a cap on it, or they can just shut them down completely if they just don't like you or don't want to. In that way we're really dependent on the government And if we're not dependent on the government in that way, then we're dependent on, natural, like I'm thinking about adibautika, adidivika, adiatmika miseries, you know, then we're dependent on nature, and the personalities therein, you know, if we have certain goods that we're distributing, if a giant tidal wave comes and wipes out all of the trains and the planes and the trucks and everything, and we can't do that. Or, on and on and on it goes. Anyway, just kind of exploring man's dependence in the material world. And I really like this. Renunciation means renouncing one's dependence on the conditions of material nature and thus becoming completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. I find this to be, this is kind of, we spoke about it recently. This is like an aspect of devotional service where, sometimes the line between what is practical, what is not practical gets blurred, and sometimes even devotees, especially non-devotees, we'll see this as not practical. You know, real renunciation means perfect dependence on God. In the material world, basically, we're conditioned to have full dependence on money, basically, mostly. Uh, yeah. Every living being is dependent on someone else because he is so made. Actually, everyone is dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, but when one forgets his relation with the Lord, he becomes dependent on the conditions of material nature. The artificial dependence on money is a condition of material nature. Because even in the material world, we can observe that, inexplicably somebody just has a large quantity of money given to them. Or inexplicably, somebody has a large quantity of money and just within hours or in a moment, it's gone. So anyway, I like exploring this, dependence topic in renunciation. Renunciation means renouncing one's dependence on the conditions of material nature and thus becoming completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Real independence means complete faith in the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of matter. God is also in everyone's heart, and God in the hearts of other living entities can make them perceive or think anything about you. If you're really dear to the Lord, if you're very close with the Lord, if you're practicing Krishna conscious bhakti yoga with integrity, then actually, Krishna in the heart of other devotees or human beings, anybody, can just inspire them to support you in any kind of way, really. And, someone who's looking at it materially or externally just thinks, okay, you're like a parasite, just depending on others. You should work and you should take care of yourself, which on one level is true, but what the concept, the material concept behind that doesn't facilitate the understanding of, like doing the spiritual work or actually obtaining this Krishna consciousness of depending on the Lord and actually doing like the Lord's work of preaching and, sadhanas and all these things, and actually being able to give that as a service to people, to living entities, human body or whatever body, and actually raising the consciousness, giving people God consciousness. And, that's not acknowledged, but it is acknowledged by the Lord. and then he will take care of his devotees. It's actually very simple and practical. But it requires faith. Yeah. Real independence means complete faith on the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of matter. If one is trying to practice renunciation and, they have faith in the mercy of the Lord, you have to have complete faith in the mercy of the Lord. Basically, you're at the mercy of the Lord whether or not, the situation works out this way or that way. Maybe you will eat every day at the same time something very, some good nourishment. Maybe sometime, maybe not. Maybe you have to go 2-3 days without eating or something because of this. But the person is not identifying with the body. It's not me. It's not like I'm going to die. If the Lord so desires, the pure devotee can give up the body for the service of the Lord. If he's genuinely acting in the devotional service of the Lord. And then that other point that was really nice was one who is chanting under the instruction of a pure devotee this is a pure devotional service. This is pure chanting, free from offenses. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Because the 10 offenses were named or were mentioned. I'll try to remember them. One is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for the propagation of the holy name of the Lord. 2 is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the holy name of Lord Vishnu. 3 is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4 is to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or any literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5 is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6 is to give some mundane interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7 is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy names. 8 is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna. Sorry. 8 is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kund. 9 is to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10 is to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain some material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. So those are the 10 offenses. But, as we heard today, if a pure devotee is instructing and you're following how to chant, then you're chanting offenselessly, which is a big deal. Most of the time, the pure devotee is going to instruct you to chant without these 10 offenses. But, at the same time, the pure devotees are able to instruct a person according to where they're at. And so, basically, we can rest assured in taking shelter of those instructions of the pure devotees. So that's a nice, and that was just a part of a bigger point of, getting a glimpse of the potency of association with pure devotees. I mean, basically, we heard even just by one seeing a pure devotee, one can be completely purified. And what to speak of having actual association, hearing and chanting, serving, the 6 loving exchanges, giving gifts, receiving gifts, revealing the mind, confidence, hearing confidentially, offering prasad, receiving prasadam. This is like it's unimaginable the amount of advancement one can make in a very short time by associating with pure devotees like that. Hare Krishna. Anyway, these are just some thoughts. It's basically time to wrap it up. If anybody wants to share anything, any reflections, questions, comments. Looks like not. Hare Krishna. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I think when I'm hearing about the pure devotees, just how grateful for Srila Prabhupada, his instructions on chanting, his association, and several times today we also heard about some significant, specific importance of Srimad Bhagavatam, and just how nice of a process we have, chanting, hearing, associating, and how merciful Prabhupada is, giving his association in the form of his books at any time, any place, really, in any way. Hare Krishna. So, all right, Prabhuji's, if you don't want to share anything, then I'm not going to just ramble on and on here. So, last call for nectar sharing. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, mancha kalpatarvischa, kripasindhubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha, anantakirti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Excuse me. All right. Thank you so much. All glories Prabhupada. Krishna willing. We should be at our normal time tomorrow. Hare Krishna.